Hello, everybody, and welcome to our after church tea time. Our conversation today will be sharing our insights into the sermon by Carmel and about the foundation of a heavenly life, and also any other takeaways we've had from the sermon today. So I'm Granville Campbell. Thank you again for joining us. I'd like the rest of the team to please introduce themselves, and then we'll proceed from there.
Hi, I'm Liana.
Hi, I'm Diana.
Thank you, ladies. So I think one of the things that stood out for me from Carmel's sermon was that it was quite structured in terms of just unpacking those components of how to really have a healthy relationship with life, and also just to allow yourself the space to experience that relationship with life. And I think the example that she shared about her vibrational changes as she progressed was quite a fitting example, because, just it highlights to me just the steps and the energy applied, and also the energy applied to allow herself to grounding that new vibration. And I feel like one of the most important things that stood out for me, and something that I've worked on quite significantly, probably even before joining TFAS and before joining COU and Twin Flames Union Universe, was just understanding what that personal foundation actually is, and going on that journey. And I feel like we've all kind of done this in various components, and it's led us to a very grounded, very truth-based, very love-based community that we probably have been trying to build our foundation on for a long time, and it just kind of culminated in finding Jeff and Shaleia and their work. So for me, that is kind of just the golden thread of how I feel my journey has expanded. So I'd like to just open that up to both of you and ask you how you feel like your journey has expanded and how that led you to Jeff and Shaleia.
I recognize this journey before, like that I was working a lot on my foundation and a lot on relationships, and I moved from different relationships and experiencing contrast and everything. So I made a very clear choice that I want to be in a safe environment with love, and a safe environment where I can work on myself. And before this teaching, I also had different types of therapy and all that. And I noticed how every time I moved up in a better way to heal. And this is a big part of my own foundation. And it's really nice to look back at it and see how it has been a journey leading up to this place that feels really safe and secure, and where you can thrive or go deeper.
Yeah, I definitely resonate a lot with what you both said. And I feel like for me, it was really calling in my support on the journey, and recognizing like there was more to life than my 9 to 5, and more to life than just kind of going through the motions and dealing with all the upsets around like relationships and blocks to love, and connecting with a group of people and connecting with leaders and masters in this work, and seeing that I'm not crazy, like there are plenty of other people out here who are on the same path as me and who get this, and who are moving through some of the same things. So I'm not alone. And so, it was really just like calling in that support, and being around a group of people who could push me further in that, and finding my truth, and finding like my authentic self.
I like that you shared that, because yeah, I think at some point in my journey as well, I was like, am I losing the plot here? Like, what's actually happening? And I'm sure there's lots of people that have asked themselves similar questions or that exact question. And, you know, just the way you said it, like, it was nice to know I'm not crazy, you know. And I laugh because it's so much resonates with me. And especially, like, you know, like Leanna said, like, you know, all those relationships, all of the components of the journey, also what you said, like all the components of the journey, as you like calling in that support and like finding the contrast and realizing this is not necessarily what's working for me. And sometimes even ask, like, feeling like, but why isn't it working for me? Because it seems to be working for other people. And yeah, you know, it was like literally what Carmel shared about really learning to have a healthier relationship with life and realizing that that contrast wasn't necessary. Like, the more I experienced the contrast, the more I got tired of the contrast. And I think that's kind of what led me to exploring, well, what is this journey about? And actually finding a community that can help me build a healthier foundation. Like, I feel like my foundation from growing up and working and studying, you know, like there were components, but the foundation was very shaky. And as I learned how to uproot those upsets, I just feel like the foundation actually solidified itself without me going in search of a new foundation, which feels like a significantly healthier process than what would have happened in the past in terms of wheels spinning in that shaky foundation.
Yeah, I recognize also this journey of claiming support or parts of a foundation where I didn't receive so much contrast. It was just natural. So it can be that way too. But yeah, I feel like sometimes you have this challenge and you have this lesson, and in other parts you're just naturally supported and go the other parts of your foundation are going along as you build this. Well, but for example, you're focused on the house, and then with that, you're building also relationships. Or that's all one as when you're focused on your support, I feel.
Yeah, I really like that you pointed that out. Like it's not all change or it's not all big upheaval. Like there are some things that you're naturally doing, and it makes me think of like life purpose and how events in our life kind of mold us and shape us for our life purpose. And it doesn't always have to be this harsh kind of upheaval experience. It can feel very natural and easy and calm, which is, I feel like, a really big perk of this journey, and like just surrendering to that peace and surrendering to that ease. So yeah.
I like what both of you have shared in terms of the fact that it isn't always that hard. And even in hindsight, at the time when you were experiencing it, may have felt hard, but when you look back, you kind of look at it and go, yeah, it wasn't actually that bad. I just hadn't learned how to actually apply love in those places that were asking for love. It kind of just makes it feel so much lighter. Like I look at myself probably 3 or 4 years ago and I'm like, I don't even recognize myself in that space in certain instances. And in other instances, I've just really deepened into who I am. So, it's kind of like the combination of the change happening, but also the combination of, as you said, Diana, that there's some things that were there at the core. And there's some things that Leanna shared, like you actually did have the support. It might not have in your mind had the label of support, but it was there. And I feel like that's kind of a journey, like not just recognizing the upsets, but also recognizing the blessings along the way. And when you do realize the blessings along the way, you kind of are able to relax more. You're able to work the journey more because you just realize the benefit of the work that you've done. And you realize the benefit of actually doing the work. Like I find myself so much more peaceful. I've learned through Jeff and Shaleia's teachings and the support of my Ascension coaches to literally learn to trust my peace. Like it's very uncanny to say, but like when you think about it, peace hasn't, and for me, peace hasn't always been a default. And the deeper I go into peace, the more I have to sit down and surrender to that peace so that I can trust it. And so that I can have a healthier relationship with life. And it kind of, just kind of starts to feel a lot lighter all the time. It's like even when there's an upset, it doesn't feel like I'm dragging my feet anymore and I'm doing heavy lifting. It kind of feels like literally doing the work of the day. Almost like, hey, I need to sweep today. So I'm going to sweep today. Like you don't think sweeping your house is tedious. You just do it because you need to do it. Just like sometimes you find an upset and you just heal through the upset because actually that's what's necessary right now. And sometimes you heal the upset and you look back at it and you're like sometimes I heal the upset and look back and I'm like, I can't remember what the upset was, which is always quite fun. Like I always have a laugh when I look back and I'm like, what was the upset again?
Yeah, that happens to me a lot, especially like in my coaching sessions. I'm like, what was I upset about? But yeah, I really like what you said about how like in the beginning, surrendering to that state of peace can feel a bit foreign if you're not like used to it. If you're used to anything but peace, making that choice to feel into peace is going to feel different. And it's going to feel new. And what I learned is that it's okay if it feels new. Because when I'm in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be, spiritual, and this peace is supposed to come natural. And it is natural. It's our natural state of being, right? But if we haven't been functioning out of that space, then it'll feel different. And so I'm learning that that's okay. For it to feel new and for it to feel kind of different, and to just kind of relax into it. And I also like what you said about how sometimes when you're in that state of peace, the next action is just something like sweeping or, like daily tasks, the work of the day, which is also really refreshing for me because I used to have a lot of resistance to cooking and cleaning and just like day-to-day things that have to get done. I used to have a lot of resistance to it. But what I'm finding is that when I just kind of settle into a state of surrender and peace, I naturally want to do those things. I naturally want my home to be clean, and I want the food to be cooked by me, it's just a natural feeling. And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, that's my natural state of being. I want to do these things. So yeah, it's just been really cool to see how I relate, like what Karma was saying, how I relate to life, and being open to changing in that way as I surrender deeper into peace. So yeah.
Yeah, I recognize this feeling of when you're healed or you're in peace, then you naturally want to change things in your life. In the physical too, I have with my own house, it took me years to just paint a very old place. But when I was, when it was really peaceful inside, or like my inside was not matching up with the external anymore, then I felt very inspired to change that. And it's just grounding that inner peace and that inner healing you've given to yourself. And it's really nice to live that way instead of trying from outside and then feel frustrated, or I have to do this and all this stuff, and then you have to do it again and again. And when it comes from inside, you just feel really good about it, and that's then it stays for forever.
Yeah, Leanna, I think you shared something quite important that I've also experienced. And it's literally, the more I let go of the mental and emotional clutter, the more I want to actually get rid of the physical clutter around me. And one of the things that has kind of started standing out for me is the more I get into peace, the more I am aware of the noise from my neighbors. The more I'm aware of the sounds of life that sometimes feel like they don't quite fit with my vibrational peace right now. So I was like, okay, Lord, so what's going on here? Because, okay, so this is my house, I'm comfortable, the noises around me have never bothered me before. And now they just kind of feel really close. And, the fact is, you get to that point at which you've healed so many components, and all those components start to really work well together and build up into your expansion, as Carmel shared. And then there's that vibrational upgrade that settles in. And you find the physical upgrade as well. Kind of just happens. Like the more there's internal alignment, the more the external misalignments become apparent. And the more they actually lead you further into your healing. It kind of almost feels like counterintuitive, but it's literally that. It's like, I feel like the space is no longer supportive. And so I need to shift things around. I need to remove clutter. And yes, like you said, Deanna, I want to cook the food myself. I actually enjoy cooking, kind of thing. But I feel like the healing I think it's that component of spiritual hygiene that Carmel was speaking to. As you focus on your spiritual hygiene and really ground it and entrench it, hygiene becomes a much more pervasive thing. It literally just expands by itself in your vicinity. And so you will even find, and I have found it, that I'm very comfortable to put up a boundary where I feel like a relationship is no longer supportive, or a friend is saying something that I don't appreciate or I don't like. Like, actually, no, this doesn't match my vibration. So meet me where I live, or let's not walk this path together anymore. And I felt like, like it always, I always envisaged like the hair on people's necks standing up, and I'm like, okay, I don't feel like this is loving. So like, if you continue, you can love me from a distance. It's like, okay, it's really okay for you to love me from a distance. You just like see the eyes going like, what just happened? But like it's literally from a very peaceful space. It's like, yeah, you're not really matching my vibration, and this is not feeling healthy. So let's do something better, or let's not do this at all. And it just feels so much more comfortable.
Yeah, that's what Carmel talked about too. Like, putting boundaries is very important, because you need to, really feel safe in your life and your ascension journey. And I feel this is also a really big thing. Collective is healing, and I'm healing, and feeling this safety in actually putting the boundaries, so you have even more safety in, yeah.
Yeah, and I think something that just kind of jogged my memory when you were talking was that energy of boundaries. Like, I feel like in the past I wasn't able to energetically support my boundaries as much as I'm able to do now. So now, like, it's a choice. And I kind of feel like the power of the choice doesn't require me to pour energy into it. It just feels really natural. It doesn't feel odd to me. It doesn't feel foreign. It doesn't feel like I have to convince people of something. And I almost feel like it's kind of born out of releasing that energy of fear in that relationship space. And it's something that Kamal touched on quite a bit, is just releasing that fear, letting go of that fear. And I feel like sometimes in the past, I might not have been comfortable to set a boundary for fear that people might not like me. And now I'm so comfortable in the fact that this doesn't align with my values. It doesn't align with my value of me. So like it's almost like that energy of it's a no-brainer. Like I don't have to put thought into this. It's just like it's misaligned. It's not okay. It's just not okay. Let's not do it. That energy of like, yeah, we don't do that here kind of thing. It's like, it just feels so much more comfortable.
Yeah, this is something that I've been moving through a lot as well. And yeah, I feel like in some parts of my life, it's getting a lot easier to put boundaries. I'm saying no a lot more. And sometimes no will just come out of my mouth so easy. And then I'm like, whoa, did I just say that to this person? But then in other parts of my life, I'm still kind of moving through like learning how to set boundaries with like different relationships. So I'm learning that one shoe maybe doesn't fit all, or I'm just kind of navigating how to set boundaries in every area of my life. And so, but yeah, I agree that it gets a lot easier as you practice it, and then it just becomes natural. So yeah, that's what I'm learning as well.
Yes, I'm learning a lot as well. And I feel like this is just how you're creating your life, by saying no to something. And yes, it's just the same as if you do it with people. If you are literally putting a wall, or closing the door, or the sound, or whatever. And yeah, just like a way that you just create your perfect life and your foundation, and there's no fear or judgment or fighting or control in it. It's just, yeah, it feels, yeah, very creative.
And it also, like, it also feels, it feels more fun as well, because, like that energy of allowing ourselves to learn again. I've just, like, for me, it's been a thing of like learn, incorporate, and carry on. And now it's like constant learning. It's just like, what's new here? What's it showing me? What's it teaching me? What's there for me? Why am I not transcending something sometimes? Because sometimes, you don't transcend something because there's still more for you to learn. And sometimes the depth of learning will require that you stay in that lesson for longer, but there's always a new component in that lesson. It doesn't feel to me like it's the specific same lesson all the time any longer. Like, it constantly feels like there's evolution in the lesson. And I think it's something that Carmel talked to as well, in just like allowing yourself to learn, and even allowing yourself to be comfortable with making mistakes. And like, something for me in my life that I have probably had to work on is kind of letting go of that energy of perfectionism and not wanting to make a mistake. So I kind of feel like, as I'm learning and as I'm working through the Ascension coaching support, through the classes, through the journey, through the conversations with everybody in the community, it just allows me to relax even more. And I think it just goes back to what you shared earlier, Diana, in terms of, there are people here with me on the journey. Our lessons may not look the same. Our journey may not look the same, but there's a very similar thread, or a very connected thread, that just makes it so much more peaceful.
Yeah, what I'm now also reminded of is how Carmel said the teaching helped her a lot. And I feel like many of us have never learned to create this for ourselves, this safe space. Yeah, that's very true. And a big part of the teaching is, when you start out, is all creating all this safe space and this relationship with life before you can go even further than it. So it's very good.
Yeah, I like what you shared there in terms of creating that safe space for ourselves, because I feel like that's been, for me, it's been one of my core lessons. It's kind of been uprooting the illusion that there isn't safety and there isn't stability and there isn't protection. I think it's something that Carmel spoke to in terms of how she had to transition in a journey into certain places, past certain relationships, but kind of solidifying that energy of feeling stable and feeling secure. And it's for me, it's been a big thing as well, because as a child, we moved around a lot. So even just that physical home energy is something that I've had to learn to ground. And it's almost for me, it feels like it's taught me to really build a foundation of truly belonging that I may not have been able to cultivate as well earlier in my life. And so it's important for me right now in my space that there's peace in my house, that my home life is stable, that I very importantly look after financial stability as well, because it does feed into that physical security energy. You know, so it's all, it all stacks up. And you're like, I feel like the lessons have just all solidified into that space of really wanting to be consistent and persistent with certain things where I, in my younger life, may not have been. And where in my younger life, I might have been a little less almost discerning about things. Whereas now I'm like, something feels off. Let's explore this off feeling so that I can understand it, to understand if this is the right choice for me, to understand if these are the right people around me at this time in my life. So yeah, it has, like, I definitely feel like it's contributed to my energy of really unpacking things, like looking into it, like really trying to understand what's there. And then now with having the mirror exercise as the core and the baseline, it just makes it so much easier and so much comfortable. It's just like, you know, almost when it's kind of like when you get that missing piece and it kind of fits into every component. I feel like I have that sense of the mirror exercise in my life.
Yeah, I like what was said about like being willing to learn a new way of doing things, and like also recognizing that there's a lot we have to unlearn, a lot that we may have been taught growing up that just doesn't serve us anymore, and having compassion for that part of ourselves that's unlearning a lot, and stepping into like a new vibration, a new way of being. Like for me, I've had to unlearn a lot around just community and relationships. And I grew up kind of being taught that things have to be done in private and keep the family business private and things like that. But I'm learning that it's actually a lot healthier to do things out in the open, right? And transparency is good, and transparency is healing, and communication is healing. And just like having compassion for myself and for others in that space is really important. Yeah.
Yeah, what you said about unlearning reminds me of how societies teach, or like the old is teaching us what is safety or foundation, like that, as if you have to follow a certain path, like you go to school and then you go to college and then you have a job and kids and a car and all this basic stuff, and that's not for everyone feeling the best way, the best basics of life. And just like sometimes you want to learn something else, or you want to explore like different things. And there's also, I feel there's also a big part of unlearning that we can all have our own journey in a sense.
Yeah, I like that, because I think like sometimes, and it's happened to me as well, like, like just when people ask you these questions of like, where you are in terms of, are you married, do you have children, what's happening here, what's happening there, and like, and in the past it felt to me literally like they asked you these tick box questions, and I've never subscribed to these tick boxes. Like it would irritate the hell out of me. And I feel like now that I'm so much more comfortable with myself, people don't ask me those questions anymore. They're like, I'm not even sure if it's just because vibrationally I'm not even there, or if it's the fact that there's different relationships around me. But like, I don't get people asking me those daft questions anymore. It's so cool. And, it's so much more comfortable, because actually I can have real conversations with people about things that I appreciate and I enjoy. And it's not these rudimentary basic questions that we all experience at some point in our life. But like, it's like, yeah, we've transcended that. We don't do that. Yeah, it's very cool. Sorry. The other thing that I wanted to kind of just also touch on was just how how Carmel shared the questions at the end of a sermon in terms of like, you know, is this asking yourself the question of, is this actually contributing to my life? And I may be paraphrasing it, but yeah, you know, like, and I think it's something, so a quote that I read at some point was also just like, you need to ask yourself, is this contributing to the life that you want to live? And if it isn't, say no to everything that isn't contributing to that. And I think you've touched on it earlier, Dion, again, it's just in terms of the relative ease of saying no that wasn't there before. Like, just, you know, and I feel like, again, it's just that release of the fear of what people might think or perceive, or even, you know, feeling responsible for other people's emotions that may have kept us stuck in those loops. So yeah, you know, it's been a really comfortable space to actually go like, is this serving my life? Is it contributing to my life? Is it adding value to my life? And if the answer isn't an immediate resounding yes, then it's a no. And that's how I approach it. Like, if it isn't a resounding yes or an immediate yes, then it's a no. Then something is off. And I feel like it saves me a lot of mental energy to think of it in those two terms of, if it's not a resounding yes, it's a no. And then I can explore, well, why is it a no? What's not quite appropriate about it? And I feel like that just serves my life in general. Like, I don't fight myself. I'm not at war with myself because I'm trying to find reasons to say yes or no. It's just kind of like, if it's not a resounding yes, it's a no. Why is it a no? What is amiss here? And it just also allows me to heal at a faster pace.
Yeah, one thing I'm learning is that like you have to be really honest with yourself when you are setting those boundaries and asking that question of, is this contributing to my life in a positive way? And I think I just kind of worked through this in one of my Ascension coaching sessions, but just realizing that when I am setting those boundaries and I am being honest with myself, the layer underneath that is, me and this person, or me and this group of people, without my people pleasing kind of tendency, we have nothing in common. Like, there's no relationship there. There's no, there's no similar interest. And so when you let go of the need to please or the need to take care of other people's emotions, you might find that there's nothing else tying you to this person. And that's a relationship or a situation or experience that you have to be willing to let go of in love, right? And so that's one of the things that I'm learning on the journey, and that it's okay to let go of relationships and to change and to recognize that, yeah, when you up your vibration, not everyone is gonna meet you there. So yeah.
Yeah, and also that they might not be able to meet you there where they are right now, or that they're not ready to go with you down that road. And that's also okay. I've learned to understand that everybody's not ready to actually walk on the same path. They may not, like, it might not be exactly the same steps, but even just a similar path. And I've just realized that it's okay to be compassionate with people who are choosing different to me. It's okay to respect their choices. It's okay to respect myself enough to move away from their choices. And I think it's kind of been something that I've probably grappled with in my life before. And now it's kind of like, I don't like what you're doing, and it's not kind of working. So again, let's not do it. It's kind of, it's just that thing about let's not do it. Let's not leak energy here. It's not feasible. It's not healthy. It's not reasonable.
Yeah, and like I'm learning not to judge it, like not to judge their choices or my choices, and saying that something is better or worse, but just recognizing that it's a different choice. And it's okay to make different choices from people, even if they are, your close loved ones. And just kind of accepting and surrendering to God's will in that space, surrendering to love in that space, peace in that space.
Yeah, that is teaching you to put yourself first and not live from other people's perspective. That's what I hear. And mostly that is really because you're the only one who's forever with you, so you can better focus on that, and everyone else, it's okay. And it's also fun to let go of relationships and then getting to know new people. And if you hold on to the same relationships and the same patterns, you won't explore more of yourself and go deeper. So.
Yeah, and I think all of that contributes to having more trust in yourself. So the more you heal, the more you start to trust that you know what's good for you and what's not good for you. And the more you start to know how to relate and handle those things in a healthy way for you. And I feel like that is probably the core of that kind of physical and spiritual hygiene, that self-care. It's like, just like learning to really have a healthy relationship with yourself so that you know where something is in alignment and where something is not in alignment. And once you've healed through the upset, to be very comfortable to take the next step that kind of reveals itself. It just feels so like such a simpler, more reasonable process, and a simpler and more reasonable relationship with yourself and life and other people. It just kind of feels like it flows so much better. Yeah, so just checking in with both of you. For me, this has been the fastest tea time that I've ever had. We're like almost at the place where I'm feeling quite complete. The time just like really went. Like we're sitting on 43 minutes, and I was like, well, how did that happen? So yeah, I just want to check in with you. How are you guys feeling in terms of, are you close to feeling complete, or you have any other insights to share from life and from today's sermon?
I feel complete. The last thing that I felt was that it's just also choice to flow with life instead of resistance. Yeah, it feels good to.
Yeah, awesome. And Diana, are you comfortable, feeling complete?
Yeah, feels good to me. I really enjoyed this conversation. So thank you both.
Thank you both too. Yeah, and thank you to everybody that has been with us for our after church tea time today. We'd like to invite you to like and subscribe to our Church of Union YouTube channel, where you will find all our other after church tea times, as well as our sermons and any other live conversations that have happened in the Unionism Spiritual Discussion Group on Facebook. Once again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.